Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll just wait another minute or two as people come into the room. But thank you so much for joining. If you just joined, this is going to be the People for Peat Regional Peat Symposium 2022. And this is Symposium 4. So it's 3 p.m. now, which is when we will start. And just to give you a quick introduction, today's symposium is going to be about the role of youth in peatland awareness and haze mitigation. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Okay, since it is 3 p.m., I think we can go ahead and start. And so again, welcome to everyone joining us from, seems like all over Asia. So that's wonderful. So my name is Mariam Ghani, and I'm very, very excited to have everyone here today because we're at the tail end of our symposium series. And so far we've had 3 other symposiums. So we have 5 in total. So this is going to be our second last symposium of the year, which is sad, but we've had some amazing speakers and the case is the same today as well. I'm very, very excited to listen to the discussions today. So if you can go to the next slide. As I mentioned, I am Mariam Ghani. I'm the Stakeholder Engagement and Communications Manager at Tropical Rainforest Conservation and Research Center, also known as TRCRC. And I'm going to be your host and your moderator for today. So just some basic guidelines before we start. I mean, a lot of you are very familiar with how Zoom works by now, but basically please rename yourself to the following format where you have your name as well as your organization. And then if you could please keep your microphone off during the presentations as well as your video off if you're not presenting, that would be really helpful. And throughout the symposium, of course, we always encourage questions for our speakers and as much interaction as possible. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and we will get to them as soon as we can. Next, so again, we have a really exciting agenda for you today. So of course, you know, as all People for Peat events will give you an introduction to what People for Peat does. But then we have some really exciting speakers. I've actually basically met both of them in person, which is a really cool thing to say, especially, you know, in a sort of post-pandemic world. First up, we have Kantira Inkarninan, who also is known as Tuk, and she'll be talking to us about how she's inspiring positive peatland action in youth. And then that will be followed by none other than Dini Hartining Tias, who is going to be talking about engaging youth in fire and haze mitigation. So we've got these 2 really, really exciting speakers, and then we'll follow up with a panel discussion. So you can ask your questions during that time, and then we'll close. So I'm really looking forward to it. So before that, let me play you the short video about People for Peat.
Activities with real action in the ground, together with the local peoples and supported by government and the corporation, and it will be one of the best solutions.
My hope for the Asian peatlands is that there will be more awareness amongst the general public, amongst the government, amongst the private parties, about the very important role peatlands play in regulating the climate, in maintaining biodiversity, and in providing an income for local and regional communities.
So to maintain peatland ecosystem, it is essential to build capacity of local communities, especially in restoration and wise use of peat forest.
In the future, we hope to see more businesses on peatlands to operate sustainably.
Let's help protect our peat forest together because we need to set a better future for our children.
Awesome. So the ending of that video really segues very well into our discussion for today, which is the role of youth. So I'm glad you got to see that. So just a quick introduction to what the EU SUPA program is. So the EU SUPA program consists of two components, as component 1 and component 2. We at People for Peat are considered component 2, where we're focusing our efforts on non-state actors. So what we're trying to do is to mainstream data about peatland to increase business and capacity for business and investment throughout the ASEAN region for peatland, and then also to raise awareness through advocacy as well. And so our project on both sides, on component 1 and component 2, are funded by the European Union. And our goal ultimately is to reduce fires and haze in the ASEAN region. And sadly, we're at almost the last year of our project at People for Peat. So it's been a wonderful journey, and it's been so cool to meet all the different people, whether they've been our speakers or our participants. So very, very grateful for this opportunity. So next up, of course, to talk about the coalition members. As you guys know, I'm from Tropical Rainforest Conservation and Research Center, and our mission, and we're based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and our mission is to conserve tropical rainforest plant species so that we can do landscape-wide protection to address the critical rate of biodiversity loss in our country and in the world. And then we are also joined by other coalition partners, such as World Resources Indonesia, and they ultimately are who are focusing on the research pillar, especially because that is their main drive throughout the world, because they're a global organization. And then we also have Yayasan Initiative Dagang Hijau, also known as IDH, and this is IDH Indonesia, that is kind of focusing on pillar 2, which is the business side of things, right? Bringing CSOs, companies, and finances together to build a more sustainable future, especially to do with climate change. And so far, in the last 2.5 years, a lot has been going on, even despite the pandemic. So for pillar 1, where we're focusing on data and information, we've done conferences of parties, we've done research proposals, and we have a lot of different research topics that have been researched over the last 2 years. So very exciting stuff. And then for pillar 2, we just actually concluded our Business Hub Summit in Jakarta just last week, where we had all the different businesses who are sustainably operating on peatlands. We gave them an opportunity to pitch their businesses to potential green investors. So very, very exciting stuff. And then for pillar 3, in terms of outreach and advocacy, of course, we have this Symposium series, and this is the 2nd year that we're running it. And we've also, side by side, been running the Peatland Ranger program in all the countries that we are working in, and we're working in 8 different countries. So that's also been a really exciting part of our program. And so this is just a quick overview, a visual overview of what we've done over the past couple of years. As you can see, definitely a lot of Zoom meetings, but thankfully, as things open up, we've been able to actually visit the sites, visit the people on the ground, and meet people such as Tuk and Dini, who are already working on the ground. So that's been really wonderful. Okay, so before we go any further, I always like to just ask our audience where they are coming from. So let me just run that poll. Which country are you from? It's always interesting to find out the demographics of people, especially when it comes to our symposiums, because we advertise internationally. So always good to see where people are coming from. Okay, about most of you are done here. I will end this poll and share. And we've got a really good mix of people. We've got someone from Cambodia, from Indonesia, from Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Thailand, and others. So I'm curious where others are coming from. So if you would like to share what country you're from that wasn't listed here, please do in the chat box and just say hi from your country. So thanks so much for joining us, everyone. All right. So without further ado, I'd really like to introduce our first speaker, who is none other than Kandira Inkaninan. I know her as Tuk, so that's what we all will call her. And she is the director of the Pinarapi Bilingual School. And so prior to becoming the director of the Pinarapi Bilingual School, which by the way is based in Patalung, Thailand, and I had the chance to visit with her just maybe a month ago. Tuk has always been involved in environmental conservation and in the environmental conservation awareness space since 1999. So that's a long time ago. And she's also served as the president of the Environmental Conservation Club of Chiang Mai University during her senior year. And she contributed her time and efforts in making a difference for a better environment, raising awareness of young fellows on different environmental issues. So after she graduated, she pursued a master's degree in environmental studies from the University of Tasmania in Australia, and then came back to Thailand to work as a school teacher for 10 years. So after moving and settling in Patalung, she established the Pinrapi Bilingual School for Children to improve their English speaking skills, all while raising awareness of both children and their parents on environmental issues, both at the local and global level. So on a monthly basis, Tuk organizes a trip for parents and their children to nature parks and botanical gardens so that they can see just how valuable nature is to their lives. And I had the chance to see that in person. It was quite a magical experience. And so she joins us today to share her experience in inspiring positive peatland action in youth from a really young age. So Tuk, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, MJ. Hi. Am I on a screen now?
Yes, we just need to share your screen.
Oh, share my screen right now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Share screen. Here.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, สวัสดีค่ะ Good afternoon, everybody. I am Tuk, as MJ already introduced, and I'm involved in, I'm the co-founder, I'm a founder and a director of Pinrapi Bilingual School, and also a committee of TWF or Talenoid Wetland Foundation in public relation and marketing. I've been involved in environmental awareness for a long time since I was in university. So here's my background. In fact, I was doing my journalism degree in Chiang Mai University when I found this environmental conservation club in university, and I knew right away that I would like to join this club. It just happened. I wasn't sure what I like at that time, even when I got into university, but I got in journalism and I have to do it. But then when I see this club, I thought to myself, this is the one that I really like. And I don't know why, for what reason. I didn't have a chance to go into nature much since I was a child, but all I know is my hometown in Phetchabun up north, it's full of forest, and I love the green and the smell of dirt and the smell of the rains and the green color that I experienced since I was young. So I think, okay, this environmental club. So I joined in. We organized these environmental camps for both students from high school and also from the undergrad students in university. We take them out into the camp, and also we learn about how people protect forest. And I also do news reports because I also worked in as a reporter of our newspaper, the campus newspaper. So I mostly write reports about environmental issues and also news articles and features on those environmental issues and awareness a lot. Then after that, I continue my study in environmental studies in University of Tasmania, Australia. And that's how I realized that I really love it. So, well, in conclusion, now me live in Patalung, and this is the place where I think I'm so lucky to be in Patalung because it has a lot of natural resources and places for my two children to learn. And in this picture, it shows the activity that we did during the time that we went onto the Karen Mountain Hill Tribe to learn about how they protect their precious forest sustainably. Okay, and here's the picture of us when we were in undergrad students. You know, the picture of the two people standing down here at the bottom is two of the very famous Karen tribal people in Thailand who show us how they do it sustainably, and they are quite famous in Thailand too. And I get to meet them in person at that time, and I was so proud of myself, and it's so I was so grateful to be there with all my friends and all other participants of the camps. Well, at that time it was really difficult to find information. Over 30 years ago, it was like we have no internet, not much internet connection. We didn't get to learn to use email as quick as the kids nowadays. When you want to know some information, you know, we have to go to the place. So we ride these motorbikes to go up on the mountain, which is very rural. Sometimes we got stuck on the roadside because it was raining so hard, so we have to just push the bike up the mountain. But it was worth it. It takes a long time to travel there, but we learn a lot of information and how they protect their forest in a sustainable way. We came back down and recruit some people, you know, some graduate students. Hey, would you like to join in the club? And we going on the camp, and you know, I showed them what it would be like, and they, you know, they started to join us, and we go up and we learn a lot. And some of the participants even become part of the members of the club as well. So it was hard at that time, but you know, I've seen a lot of changes in awareness on environmental issues, and I'd like to share with you what I realized, what I have been noticed, the difference between 30 years ago and right now. 30 years ago, what we did is that, you know, it's issues that we have worked with, it's so much different from now, because nowadays we're focusing on air pollution, you know, overuse of plastic affecting wild animals, and there's issues of climate change, and then smogs from neighboring countries. But at that time, we focus on, you know, against dam construction and tree cuttings. It's a forest conservation. It's because I think because nowadays 30 years has passed, and the environmental issues are rising, and people can see the impact of the issues so clearly. Well, you know, if go back into 30 years ago, we don't see a lot of air pollutions. In Chiang Mai University, the air was in Chiang Mai, in the northern part of Thailand, the air was so clean. We don't have to do anything about the air quality at that time. But nowadays, you know, as time goes by, air pollution become a big issue, and also climate change, and also other issues that are rising nowadays. And also another difference is that more accessible information, you know, you have internet, children or youth have internet. When they want to search, when they want to know anything, they just go on internet, and they're here. It's just one click and they get all the information. This is so much different, and a better communication. You know, at that time, 30 years ago, we don't have emails. We did not even have telephone. So we write postcards, you know. It is so much better to raise awareness right now than in the past, for sure, including this social media where you can connect to other people from around the world. Even in this meeting, we are in different countries, but we can see each other and we can share our ideas and awareness on pollution and environmental issues. This is a great opportunity. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to speak here today. Oh. Okay. And well, let's talk about our work right now and why Peatland. Why do we focus on Peatland? Well, since we moved here, the place that we go to most is a natural place, and one of them is Talenoi wetland and peat swamp, and it's an iconic place for Patalung. Patalung in the past is so small and nobody heard about it, but they know Talenoi, because it's so famous, and people likes to come here, and the nature is unique. But we also noticed that 7 years or 8 years that I have lived here, I have seen a lot of changes that Talenoi is facing, that the peat swamp is facing, either be the rubbish dumping or water pollution. A lot of people coming to live in the area and doesn't really take care of the environment and that kind of issues. So I think focusing on peatland, if we could take care of it, it will be a great learning resources for students and for my two boys too. Because when you have a child, you start thinking about the environment that your family and your children will live in, and what could be the place for them to learn. We don't want the wetland and the peat swamp to get destroyed. And the education administration is from the top down, which means that all the curriculum is created from the educator up there, from the top. But so they have the students in the local and in this area learning about other kind of forests and other things. But the part that they teach about peatland is very tiny and very small, and it doesn't include all the knowledge. It doesn't have, all the knowledge about the peatland that you guys are learning in Indonesia or in Malaysia, because you have a vast area of peatland, but we don't. We have only a tiny bit, but we still think it's very precious. Okay, and the area of our work is this. In this map shows a Patalung area in the bottom, and Nakhon Si Thammarat, which is in the top of this map. The green part shows the peat swamp forest that we have, and the red line shows the boundary, and it's also the community. That's where the community is located, and the purple color shows the oil palm plantation that started to invade into the peat swamp area. So TWF decided to focus on youth because this year goal of TWF is that we're trying to make wetland and peat swamp a learning area for all the youth and students of Patalung. We're focusing on how to make this place a learning center for all the students of Patalung and Nakhon Si Thammarat and nearby, the people who live nearby, because it's so precious. They should learn something about their own home before learning about other thing else. So we're focusing on them, especially on the youth right now, because the youth or the people who live in the 9 sub-district, they will feel the effect of the issue first. For example, if there's wildfire in the area, they are the first who is affected. And the youth, because they're not children anymore and they learn a lot, they have some kind of experience, they have the ability to make decisions, and they have ability to take action, and because of their age, they want to make an impact to society. That's what I found. trying to get it. Okay. And so TWF and all the staff is trying to create a program. What can we do so that all the youth and the students around here get to learn more about peat forest, because it's their home, as I said earlier. So we create this peat ranger training program for youth. These are the first group that we took. We organized and we took them to the forest, to the peatland. Oh, before that, we actually recruit some of the youth as the TWF Youth Committee. So we're trying to get them into our foundation and get them to be part of the program, be part of the foundation, to work on the issue that they would like to see change. We've got quite a few of them, and it's been really good. And also we set up this training program. We started out small from the environmental club in the school, because in each school there is already an environmental club, and we invited them in, and they are so interested to join. So at that time, in that program, we have about 30 children from the school nearby, and I also put it on social media and invited other people who are interested in to come in and join us, and they get to go on a boat ride into the Ramsar site in Talenoy, and they see the buffalo raising ground, and they learn a lot about the work there, how the people raise buffalo, and how the buffalo are important for the environment, for the ecosystem of the Talenoy and the peat swamp. And we came back and we had a discussion and a reflection from the kids, from the children, and some of them even said that they live over here in this area in Talenoy sub-district, but they had never been on a boat into the Ramsar site before, and that surprised us. That is actually shocking for us, because it's them who are going to take care of their own home, but they didn't even get a chance to go in there and see for themselves. That's why they have no idea what the peat swamp is like. Why is it important? Information is missing here. They didn't get a chance to go out. So anyway, we had a good discussion and reflection from them, and then they were sworn as a junior and youth peat ranger of Talenoy, of TWF, and we are very proud of them. And a little here, and what draw them to engage in the program, I think what makes them want to come into the program, because they get a first-hand experience. We took them out into the forest and they see that with their own eyes, and they experience it and they feel love. As I said, some had never been to peat forest in their life, even though their house is there. Their house is in a community, but they didn't get a chance. It's the nature of Thailand, or students go to school in the morning and they come back home at night. They go to school again in the morning, and that's go over and over. They didn't even get so much chance to go into to experience other things. So after that program, we have had a request to join in the training program from 12 schools out of 34 at that time around the peat swamp, that they would like us to run this program for the school children as well. So we keep continuing. We get with the help of the Peat Ranger program, we were able to get these school children, all the youth, to come, and with the help of TWF Panang Tung Botanical Garden and Talenoy Hunting Area, who will talk about the plants and animals, and they get a lot more information. So they're getting knowledge, they're getting to know more about their hometown, the forest nearby, and what is it like, and what are barriers preventing them being involved in the peatland conservation and protection. As I said earlier, we got not much information. We got less knowledge about peat forest. So subject knowledge is very important. They never get to peatland, peat swamp. It was the first time that they got there. No firsthand experience, and also lack of support, both time and money, because when you go into the area, it costs, there's a cost on that, a lot of expense joining in the program, like not a lot, but you need to, to be able to manage your time and money to join in, because getting there will require boat ride, and the TWF is trying our best to provide those for them to get to know peatland more and more. And how do we overcome barriers? So as I said, knowledge is the key. It means that we need to do a workshop training repetitively. So because when you want to place awareness on someone, so you have to do it repetitively, do it over time, many times. So we need a financial support from private sector. TWF would be able to pull it off, but we still need to work on that. And also, what's more important is that we need to include peat swamp topic into a local school curriculum, because it's important to them. The students should learn things from around in their neighborhood first before learning about other things that is far beyond their knowledge. So if they could get the peatland topic into a school curriculum, that's our goal. That's our number one goal right now. And as a school teacher, before, I think that there's chances that we could make it happen, because each school also allow their educator or teachers to create other topic, to put in some other topics that can impact the students' well-being and studies too. And also, we encourage more outdoor learning, because the nature is there. Why would you study in the classroom, not going out and have a look at the real thing? That's what I think. And that's more interesting. They see real thing, they get attached to it, they feel love it, and they will protect it eventually. So the roles of youth of the TWF, we're trying to get the youth to in a training program to be able to protect their resources, to restore their resources, and to utilize their resources in a sustainable way. So the youth will need to have a clear understanding and equipped with knowledge to be used in their daily life. And we found that 30% of youth, when they finish grade 12 from school, 30% of them do not continue their further education in the undergraduate level. So they go back, what they do is that they go back into their hometown, into the peat swamp, and they find job from there. They collect these weaving products. They go fishing and hunting, and they do that kind of thing. So they are the first people who need to be equipped with all the knowledge, so that they can go out and suggest and tell their family what they need to do to protect the peat forest in a sustainable way. so that it stays for them. It will just be there for them to use. Also, if they are, well, the 70% of the youth who goes to university could also continue their further education. And since they have all the knowledge, they have knowledge about the peat swamp forest, I think they will just, go back. Possibly they would become, volunteers in a forest fire, or become a volunteer tour guide for other students who'd like to know about the peat forest, or they can be a junior research volunteer for the TWF or whatever organization that's in that area. I mean, they will have the environmental mind, like they will take care of the environment more since they know more about the subject. Oh, I'd like to talk about this boy. This boy is the one who did not who go back into his hometown, and he earned a lot. He earned a lot of money from harvesting grapefruit and being able to live his life in the area, and also include this lady over here, this young lady over here. And a way forward, I think that we are very fortunate to have peat swamp in Patalung, and it's like only 23 kilometers away from our house, because it's so unique. I have never seen this before in the northern part of Thailand where I live, and the peat forest must be added into local school curriculum, because they can be divided into many subjects like natural science, biology, chemistry, social studies. And if the topic goes into the curriculum, all of the students at the school will be learning about this, and that's gonna create a wider awareness from the youth in the area. So some key takeaway that I like you to see is the repetitive training program and school curriculum is very important, is the key focus over here, because youth has ability to take actions. That's why we have TWF Youth Committee, where they have a platform where they can come and talk and share some ideas and make a better world, make a better Thale Noi, peat forest, However, awareness and connection with nature must be planted in them since earlier stage. So when they are very young, and the more children engage with nature, and the better chance for them to be aware of environment. So that's why at Pinrapi Bilingual School, we create this peat swamp classroom. We're going out on a weekly basis, and we get them to connect with nature, hands-on activities, first-hand experience, and that's going to be memorable. Those are memorable, that they will remember. And that's how we started raising awareness for them. That's why I run the Pinrapi School, and yeah, I think these children will be really aware of environment and take care of nature in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tok. That was wonderful for you to share all your different experiences from, back when you were in uni days and engaging youth then, and also the differences between, being kind of in that space then and now, and how the issues have changed over time. So thank you so much. One of the key takeaways I got was really experiential learning, right? That's so important. And I'm the same, right? Like, you don't really grasp the concept or something until you've kind of like touched it with your hands and like experienced it, and then grow to love it. And then I bring up this saying a lot in all these symposiums, but in Malay there's a saying which is tak kenal maka tak cinta, which is you can't love what you don't know, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing that. And And all the photos of the kids are always so fun to see, right? They're having such a good time. Like it's very, very clear. So thank you for sharing. And I'm sure we have lots of questions. I have actually a lot of questions for you, but I'll save that till later. And for our audience, if you can add your questions to the chat box, we'll be compiling them. And then during the Q&A, we'll be addressing them with Tuk later on. So back to our slides real quick. All right, so before we go on to our next speaker, I just wanted to share a quick poll with you guys, just to find out what you guys think, right? So the question is, how important is the role of youth in sustainable peatland management? This is a purely opinion question, just to get an idea of what you guys think. Do they play an important role, somewhat important, critically important, or least important in the scheme of things? I mean, I have a guess to what you guys might answer since you're attending this symposium today, but we'll see. I won't bias my my opinion. Okay, so I'll just end the poll now and share with you what most people think. So about almost 80% of you shared that it is critically important, like the role of youth in sustainable peatland management. And then 20% of you were like, okay, somewhat important. So I'm curious actually if you have any sort of opinions on why it's only somewhat important. I'd be curious to know why. So please share that in the chat box if you like. All right. So on to our next speaker. So this is also someone I technically met last week as well in Jakarta, but not officially. And this is none other than Dini Hartining Tias, who serves as a program and fundraising manager at Belantara Foundation, which is an environmental NGO that is based in Indonesia. And she got her Master's of Science of Forestry from the School of Forestry from Northern Arizona University in 2019. Where she was also a recipient of the C4 US8 Master's Degree Fellowship Scholarship. So smart person. So her research focuses on the impact of forest fires on Pinus mercusi, which is the Sumatran pine, as well as other ecosystems in Indonesia. And prior to her master's degree, she worked at the Research Center for Climate Change, Universitas Indonesia, as an assistant program manager. So she's got a lot of experience, not just in youth engagement, but also being a youth herself. And so she's going to share that today on the topic of engaging youth in fire and haze mitigation. So Dini, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much for the introductions. Hello everyone, my name is Dini. I'm from Belantara Foundation. I will share my screen here. And I would like to talk about engaging youth in fires and haze mitigations. So as the background, I totally agree with one of the key message that Tuk mentioned, that awareness and connections in nature in early age are very important. It was also happened for me because when I was in still little kids and in primary school, my dad used to bring us to go camping, or even in front of the our house, we put a tent to go camping in our garden, and he likes to take us out to the hiking place or to garden. And since even more on my high school, I also joined in mountaineering club or environmental club, and then that bring me to have more experience in nature, and that makes me really cannot stop thinking about it and really care about it, and make me curious, like how, like what the leaves, like why leaves turns red or yellow in some species but not in some other trees, or stuff like that, that really bring me curious. And that is why I continue my study in biology when I was in undergrad, and then continue to study in forestry to know more about the nature in the forest. And currently my roles as a youth, I want to say I'm more on applied conservations. I'm focusing on research, implementation, and capacity building. And I have started building this purpose since I completed my undergrad degree. And on the right photos, there was me in during tree analysis in one of our tree planting program in Peatland. So it's combining between research, implementation, and capacity building really makes me happy and purposeful. And that's why I excited about this. And why do I care more on forest, but also fire and haze mitigation? Because in Indonesia, we had a lot of major mega fires. On every decades, we had at least 3 fires, and due to climate change, the frequency of these mega fires become more frequent and more high intensity. And on each fires, we not only had affecting our economy, but also ecology and health and everything, especially for people that lives in those area. And most of these fires are happen in peatland, and it's very hard in peatland because peatland stored a lot of carbon stocks in their underground carbons. And when it burns, a lot of times we couldn't really see the fires, as if like in this photo on the left, we can only see a little bit of fires, but most of it we saw haze, and yeah, that make it hard to stop because we couldn't really see where the fire is in underground. And on each, this is a graph about the carbon emissions during fire seasons in Indonesia. And on the left side, we can see the comparison between each fire season in Indonesia. And in 2015, there was the last 2 big or mega fires in Indonesia. The carbon emission was even bigger than Japan and Germany, just because of one big fires. So it's very important, especially in this era of climate change, where we already feel the effect, and fires and haze mitigation become really, really crucial. And even more in peatland, usually if there's a fires in peatland, the fire can burn all over again. So in this graph, this is the research that done by on the right. This is the title variable carbon losses, and in this picture we can see on the right there's a peat swamp forest where the trees are still emergent, a lot of species. From the top you can see a lot of colors there. That means a lot of species and different heights. And because of one fire, usually a lot of tree died because it burns, right? But usually after one fire, we can still see bushes or dense vegetations, and we can see that standing trees. But the thing is, because there's a lot of dead trees or dead leaves, it creates a more prone fire environment. So after one fire, those areas become more dry. So when drought season happen, it can easily burn in that peatland. And then after it burns for a couple times, after 2 fires, usually the bushes and dense vegetations already burned. So it only left with sparse vegetations, is very dry and make it harder to restore. And if this peatland also used by the communities or the companies, then they usually make drainage canal, which make it even more dry. And the pictures on the peat swamp forests are on the right, because usually when the area is closer to the canal that make peatland dry, then it will be more vulnerable to frequent fires. And the photo in real life, it looks like this. If it's more than 1 fire, then usually it doesn't have vegetations anymore above it, and it makes the carbon storage also much more less than peat swamp forest. And usually the main vulnerable sectors or people are the local communities. They live there and they don't know how to stop the fires. As you can see in here, they don't even have equipment to stop the fires, and the fire is really hard to stop because of it happens in peatland, where most of the fires happen underground. And that's why in Belantara Foundations, we are focusing in this topic. We are focusing on protections, restoration, but also includes the local community as the main stakeholders through social forestry and community development. In one of our projects with Belantara Foundations that also helped by People for Peat, we have this as an example of what we do in peatland and with the local communities. So in their peatland, because on peatland usually they couldn't really plant a lot of trees, and it's harder to have big or productive yields. So we help them to have a pineapple plantation that is also have wood trees to make the peatland less vulnerable from drought. And we also have cattle fattening and organic fertilizer to help the community increase their pineapple plantations. So this kind of project that also include local communities as the main actors, as well as having restoration in that area, will be helpful for the community and make the areas less susceptible from fires. And among youth, the awareness of fire and haze mitigation are varies, and it different in each levels. For example, in national level, there are a couple of youth I know in Indonesia that focusing on research or on policy or on campaign. But on local level, on the villages, there are also youth that focusing on helping their community. They are joining the tree fire aware community, where usually they got facilitate. They are facilitated by NGOs such as Belantara to help them. We gave them capacity building to give them equipments to put up fires, or what to do to during drought season, so their area won't be burned by fires. And there are also youth that joining community development and tree planting and rewetting in those areas. So I saw it is varies in between level, also on online and offline. And one of the example that I think youth have the ability is using social media. This is the pictures as an example. In 2019, there was a huge fire in Indonesia that turns the sky in Jambi and Riau to orange, and it happened a couple weeks, and then so we can use the social media, this one on Twitter, to bring awareness that this is happening in some big areas in Sumatra, and other youth that is not there or living in the different area can help the people there to give donations for masks or for fire equipment. So this is an example of what we can do as youth, and using what we have as youth right now. And the role of youth, and why is it important for them to be involved? I think youth need to learn a lot, because one of the things that we have as youth is we don't know a lot, so we can learn and we can ask and we can make mistakes. That is important for a learning experience. But also you can have a better collaborations, because we have the environment right now to do that. And then we can take actions together, and that bring up our uniqueness as youth, or even in the institution that we are working at. And I saw a couple of challenges for youth to do this, that also mentioned by Tuk, that we have a gap of information and access. I saw a lot of people in Java, one of the most dense island in Indonesia, get more information and access to funding or scholarships, but people that lives in rural area usually don't have those information. So that lack of informations and gap of informations is one of the big challenges here. And also from the financial and limited access to learn on the ground. So people who already have the knowledge and financials, they usually hard to go to the peatland areas, but people that lives in peatland areas doesn't have information and financial support. And to help to participate in that particular challenges, in Belantara we have Belantara Learning Series, which is a webinars, free webinars, and we invite people from companies, universities, and all of stakeholders to join the trainings. And the seminars, the topic of these seminars usually varies between biodiversity or restorations, and what technique that we can use in those environment. I will sip a little bit. And then we are happy that the Belantara Learning Series, we received a lot of attendings, and even the registered participants almost reach 1,500 people, and it all range from academics, governments, individuals, or journalists. So it have a good participation from others. And I also have an experience with one of the network groups, youth network groups that focusing on conservation. That is called Tambora. Tambora is funded, built by people that, a couple of alumni of big universities in Indonesia that saw that gap of knowledge and information. So I studied in one of the biggest university in Indonesia, in Universitas Indonesia, and I got a lot of information about scholarships, about webinars, and all of this. But my friends that lives in other provinces usually doesn't have those information. So we created Tambora to share those informations and to have peer-to-peer learnings. So if I know something about plant ecology, then I can make trainings for other students that want to know those topics. And recently we have a conservation camp. This is the third conservation camp that we do. And we were working with one of the private sector in Kalimantan to help this conservation camp. And we were, this camp was conducted in Peatland in Kalimantan for 10 days, and we have online and offline. And with this conservation camp, we can get, we can share, we can have peer learnings, we can have long-term trainings, and supported by private sector. So this is, I think, one of a good example of how youth can help each other. And to overcome those barriers, I think it will be really great to find a mentor, because mentor can help us to build our career and where to go. And peer-to-peer learning also important, because some of the youth usually already have high achievement and know a lot of things, and we can ask them to teach us about what we want to know. And make connections and build networks also important. And as youth, I think one of the biggest thing that we can do is it's time to learn. It's okay to make mistakes while having fun without a lot of difficult things that adults have. Yeah, so yeah. And also some organizations that are helpful to assist youth. Recently, Indonesia Ministry of Education and Ministry of Education have this program that is called Kampus Merdeka, which is a program that helps students to get internship in private sectors or in NGOs. Belantara also have or joining this program, and we currently have 3 interns that is from Riau, one of the main peatland areas. And in one semester, they work with us to mostly learn about what we do as NGOs and how we do programs in peatland areas or other ecosystems. In these pictures, they went to a Kalulut honey plantations that is near the peatland areas. So they learn how the community development works and how NGO can help the communities, and how it works. They also learn about the peatland restorations or tree planting during those internships. So, and students can also apply for grants if they couldn't join or they need other supports. And yeah, so it's really helpful program that we can join. And youth can bring change to current situation of peat related issues, because I think youth can also usually have a lot of energy and a lot of ideas to make everything seems fun. And what I think that is important is embracing what we like as people, and each persons are unique. So if some people like to photograph, then you can bring those skills to share stories or storytellings about what happened in the environment, and bring up or embracing that uniqueness can help the peat related issues easier to grasp by youth or others. And several activities that will be helpful for youth that I myself also experience is trainings Tuk also mentions that repetitive workshop training helpful, and people for Peat also provide long-term trainings for uh, um, groups that are working in Peatland. That is really helpful, I think. And we also did that in Belantara and in Tambora Muda, because during training, not only we will get information, but also we will talk to each other. So peer learning are happening there, and connections and networking also happening there. And field practice also will be really helpful to know what happened in the field, and the how different the theory that we learn in class, and yeah, and see what happening in real life. And also it will be helpful to help youth to have a small project to learn that, to show them that youth can also make impact, and this is how, and this is and they can try to have that. In my experience, these three are the main things that are helpful, especially for youth that are aged above 20 and below 30. That is really great to have those experience. And each stakeholders can give their portion. So what I see now is usually NGO has a little bit of resources to do that, to support youth. Companies have a little bit of resources, university have a little bit of resources. And if we combine all of this and collaborate with each other, then all those things can be a bigger things, and that can make a bigger impact. And local champions are also important because they are the one that lives there. So facilitating and creating enabling environment will be really helpful for youth there to thrive in those areas. And working with locals also important to ensure sustainability of the project that we do on the field. And they're the one who lives there, so they can make a bigger impact in their areas. So my recommendations to engage youth in fire and haze mitigation is involving youth to on projects that are happening in Peatland and on fire and haze topics, and building a long-term capacity building really helpful. I think me and Suk have the same ideas in here because we experienced that long-term capacity building really helped me, and it can help also a lot of youth. And facilitate mentorship systems, so youth can have mentored that even better, and collaborate with youth group that is usually they already have networks. So with our limited resources in NGOs or in private sectors, we can get a bigger impact if we work with youth groups. And for youth that would like to involve, and I mentioned a lot about finding a mentor, and probably it's difficult to know like how to how to have a mentor. So my mentors helped me to, for example, as simple as looking at my resume or cover letter, or tell me about some opportunities on scholarship or trainings. So when I apply, I will have someone to check on my applications, and so I will have a bigger chance to get the opportunities. And to have those mentors, I think it will be helpful if we join a community or youth network that usually have those mentors. And I encourage to learn to ask for help, probably will be really helpful for us, because if we didn't ask, then we don't know if the options are available for us or not. And reaching out also will be helpful. It's okay really to reach out, because some people really want to help, but they don't know what to do. So if we reach out, it will be easier to find a mentor. And don't forget to keep learning and have fun while doing it. So my key takeaways are fire and haze mitigations or are important for local communities and for global, because fire and haze mitigations will reduce carbon emissions that will be really helpful in this climate change era. And youth can be very crucial to enhance that mitigations, and collaboration between stakeholders can catalyze that impact, all little resource, if we combine it all, then it can be a big resources. And youth are powerful and can be resourceful, and yeah, keep learning and have fun while we are young. Yeah, I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Dini. I love how, you started your presentation with curiosity and ended it with, keep on learning and having fun. I think that's really, really good advice to not just youth, but everyone out there, regardless of your age. And I think also it just so happened that our presentations were timed really well, because it feels like we've come full circle, right? Earlier we had to talk about, engaging youth, especially from a young age in experiential learning. And then you had you talking about how, as a child, you did experience all of that, and that kind of started your love for the environment and brought you where you are today. So it really has come full circle, and now you're going back to youth as well. So I really love it. I think it was very apt for today. So thank you so much for sharing. So now I noticed that we do have some questions in the chat box, but before we do that, we have one last poll to share with you all. So I'm going to run that poll really quick, which is how have you or your organization engaged with youth on sustainable peatland management? If you have, that is. So whether it's through volunteerism, through social media, whether you've done youth talks or forums, or research for peatland studies, or getting them to join into some kind of environmental or peat related movement. So yeah, just to see where our audience is at with engaging youth in their own lives. So pretty interesting stuff. On the People for Peat side, as you know, we've been running these talks for about 2 years now, and we do, I think, get quite a lot of youth coming in from universities, some interns, and then of course our social media is somewhere where we've really grown our social media engagements as well. And then through our Peat Ranger programs too, where we try and get a mix of youth, of people of indigenous backgrounds, so that we get, and people who are women as well, so that we get a nice mix of people to represent the community. So I'm going to end the poll now and share with you the results. So it looks like we've kind of got a nice mix of everything, really. Some people have worked with youth in terms of volunteering through social media, youth talks and forums, research. I think research is the biggest one so far, which is quite interesting. So we've got a lot of researchers in the audience as well, and then joining peat related movements. So thank you for participating in our poll. So now on to our session that we've all been waiting for, which is the Q&A session. So let me just bring back Tuk as well. Where's Tuk?
Right.
Hi, Tuk. All right. So I just want to spotlight the three of us. And I know that we've got some questions from the audience, and I also have some questions on my side too. But so let's kick it off with a question from Chanting, actually. So Chanting from Cambodia asked to Tuk, thank you so much for sharing these interesting activities on peat awareness raising among youth and children. I'm wondering about your school. Is it run under a private school or an NGO or a state school? Thank you in advance.
Well, there's two parts of it, because I actually homeschool my own children. And so we register as like a small school for my children. And then because there are fellow homeschoolers who are interested in in this kind of learning at home in a garden, so they just kind of get their children to come to my school as well. So we kind of open a little preschool for the children to just to join and play in the environment, and we go outing and we go camping sometimes, and those kind of things. So it's kind of private school and also registered homeschooler.
I see. So it's both a homeschool and a private school.
Yeah.
Do you have any government support for your school?
Yes, we do have government support for the homeschoolers only. Yeah, but with the preschool, I called it a play school, Pinrapi Play School. Basically, they come together.
Which was what children really need, right?
Yeah, we don't really have any support from the government, and because their age is not mandatory to go to school yet, because they are required to go to school at the age of 6. So under that, like Obun, he's only 4, so he doesn't need any
formal schooling.
Yeah, he doesn't need a formal education.
Nice.
So parents.
And out of curiosity, have you ever thought about the replicability of your school in other countries? So for example, all the countries that we're working in, these 8 different countries, we all have peatlands, and we all have kids. So do you think something like this is easily it can be easily replicated in other countries, or do you see that Thailand specifically is very well suited to this?
I'm not really sure about it. I think it's the main person is someone who started it, that has a
passion for it.
Yeah, has a passion for it, for kids to learn in the environment, for them to get engaged in all the nature stuff. Actually, I was thinking about setting up a forest school, because I'm so in love with forest school, where children go out into nature a lot. But it's kind of hard to do in Thailand. So the government wouldn't let you do it. I mean, you have to have a lot of restriction and requirement and all the paperwork and that kind of thing. And forest school is so different from conventional school, where kids go out into the forest, or even here into the nature. We are still worried about snakes and insect bite and things, but we're willing to take chances. So whoever would like to set up this kind of school must have the passion, and the group of students must have the parents who understand this kind of school as well. It's like an alternative school.
Yeah, I do think that there definitely is a lot of growing interest in this, especially as there's a lot of younger parents who are maybe Dini's age, my age, who grew up with that experiential learning themselves and now want to replicate it for their children. But especially when you're in an urban setting, it gets extremely difficult. So
yeah, kind of difficult for I think for parents to, lots of parents still wonder what we're doing. but some parents are really happy to come. They don't want a child to be in a rush, putting everything in a child since they were younger age. They just want the kids to be free. It's we just raise them wide and free. Like Dini's parents, they did a great thing. They took you out on a camping. You know what? I took my kids out on camping as well, on a weekly basis.
Awesome. That's so good.
They're also
so important. Your parents are, Dini?
Yeah.
Tell them we say hi and well done.
Well done.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So
participants.
Okay.
Yeah, so it sounds like this has to really be like a grassroots level movement, right? From the teachers and the people with the passion to the parents as well. So starting from the ground up. So thanks for sharing that. We have a question for Dini, and this comes from Dayang of UPM. And Dayang is interested in the rewetting by local communities. So what is the indication for rewetting? Is it before the fires or after the fires? I think this was the example that you shared earlier, Dini.
Yeah, it's before and after fires. So in Peatland, a lot of communities or private sectors, you make canals to make the peatland drier so they can't plant more trees in the peatland. So the peatland that is already dry up is more prone to fires. So the rewetting system that is created is to make that dry peatland become more wet. So it is because it's more wet, then it will be harder to burn during fire. So usually, if we already know that this year is dry year, then the rewetting should be done before dry season, so it's more wet and it's less susceptible to fires.
Right. So it's a prevention measure, and it's not
Yeah.
necessarily because of fires, but to avoid fires altogether.
Yes.
Right. Awesome. Thanks for explaining that. Hopefully, Diane, that answered your question. And then we have another question coming from Irene, and I think this can maybe go to both of you really, because this question is, have you ever experienced pushback from youth when trying to raise awareness about peat degradation? So maybe we start with Dini and then we can go on to Tuk.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the...
Yeah, of course. So have you ever experienced pushback or resistance from youth when trying to raise awareness about peat degradation?
Yeah, because I think a lot of youth these days already have something in their mind that they want to focus on. So to usually a lot of youth already want to focus on the things that they are interested. So if they don't really interested, then it's harder to get attention or will get it ignored. So it will be easier to make the topics to be easier to understand. And I think one of a big social media person in Indonesia is Peduli Gambut. I think they're one of the speakers that are invited by People for Peat. They're really good to make the peatland stories as easier to grasp, and even if you're not biologists or environmental people, then we can understand. So that will be easier for youth. If it's not interested, then if it's not interesting, then it will be harder to get more attention from youth.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. And thanks for pointing out Pantau Gambut. Just a quick plug, as Irene has added in our chat box there, that we actually do have Pantau Gambut who will be speaking at our workshop this Friday. So they're going to be talking about how to use social media to engage youth in environmental activism. So it's a full workshop. So do join us for that this Friday. So Tuk, what about you? Is there anything that you've experienced from either youth or parents themselves when you're trying to raise this kind of awareness about peatlands?
Sorry, here, okay. From my point of view, what I have experienced that I think the parents are really into or maybe the parents that I experience with, because they're all into environmental issues and they are aware of what have happening in the world nowadays. And when we started doing anything relating to environmental issues, they love to support us a lot, including people from around Thailand. Have you heard that TWF wasn't we've been financed by charity, we fundraise to get the foundation going. We didn't have the money at first, but we asked public through social media that we are going to set up this foundation and we need this amount of money, and people from around Thailand just because I think because they believe in the people who's really determined to do it, and they see that we can do it, so they support us a lot of money, and we will be able to get the TWF into action. And that is really impressed me, that people really care about environment. And the pushback, as you said, maybe when we go into the school, there might be some students who are engaged in other topics, like well, they into fashion, they into soap opera, and what is it, the band, the Korean
BTS.
yeah, that kind of things can really draw them, because I feel like people or youth nowadays also look at their phone a lot.
It's true.
Yeah, and they maybe, I think that they might be using too much time on the telephone instead of looking into the real world. So we also do this, take the kids out and take the youth out into nature, as well as the parents into natural area, and let them experience how beautiful this is, and get them out of their telephone. And they really enjoyed it, and they really like, look, I have never been here. It's in their province, they have never been there, and they now experience it, and thank you very much for taking us here. And I was like, okay, you need to get out of the house and see the real world. Yeah, I think if they get to see the real world more often, there should be no resistance or no pushback, but just look up from your screen.
Yeah, I think a lot of us really do agree, especially when we have to work on our screens. We're like, when can I stop looking at it?
I know about that.
But no, thank you for sharing that. And that's such a nice story to hear, that all you had to do was ask, and people from across Thailand came through to help fund TWF from the beginning. That's super inspiring to hear. That really shows that people believe in the mission, and there are people out there who will put their money behind environmental causes. So that's really great. That's wonderful. That's very inspiring. Okay, so oh yeah, one thing I thought about as well, though, as you mentioned, like the Korean band BTS, like that could be one way to do it, for the kids who are overly urban, overly stuck to their screens. If you have some kind of like major influence, such as a BTS or whatever have you in that country, they could be involved in, if you got BTS, for example, to go into a peatland swamp forest and do some awareness piece about that. Wouldn't that be just amazing? You have the whole global BTS army behind our cause, and I think that would be quite cool.
Yeah, exactly. We have actually thought about that. We couldn't think about the Korean. We thought about
Thailand.
Yeah, the superstar from Thailand, and the one who really into natural environment. And we were able to get one of them into the area, and yeah, he came, and we kind of got a lot of more funding, and also more well known because of him, because he and a lot of YouTuber as well, yeah, coming in and help us a lot. And I think that's a really cool thing about technology.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a good examples here that I saw, because I think younger generation, generation Z, they're activists. I think so. A couple of fans group of Korean fans group, they collect money and donate to restore mangrove here in Indonesia. So the fans group in Indonesia, like they collect money and then plant mangrove and a couple of other ecosystem, I think, and they make it as a gift for one of the members' birthday.
Wow.
So that's really awesome to that they want to do that, and it's something that we can reach out, I think, for as a NGO, right, to talk with those kind of fans group. Yeah,
Definitely. And Jerome in the chat box has just shared that in the Philippines, they also did that. The BTS army also did some tree growing. So clearly this is an avenue we should all be tapping into. So I hope you all are taking notes, everyone. So thank you for that. So we have a couple other questions. So Jerome asks, actually, I guess we're kind of already talking about this in a way, but is technology an enabler or a roadblock in getting youth involved in peatland related projects? And so maybe Dini, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, it can be an enabler, but the thing about technology is it requires maintenance. So usually if we this is just an example that we do with local communities for their economic development. So we gave them some technology to help them process coconut husk. And so all of the technology that we introduce will need maintenance, right? So that was the hard part, because usually funding will be limited after a couple of years. So after that, how to make sure that the introduction of technology can still be maintained by the communities or the youth group there, that can be one of the major things that we saw after projects. Yeah, so it can be really helpful, but also after that, there's we need a long-term monitoring as well.
Yeah, to maintain the continuity of the use of that technology, right? Because
Yeah,
you have everyone on board, and they learn a new technology, but if there's no support to bring it forward or to continue it, then it's a bit of a wasted effort.
yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Took anything on your end as far as technology and how that either is a roadblock or an enabler when you talk to youth about peatlands?
Well, I think it's an enabler because it's so convenient to get messages to everybody. They can share ideas, even though we don't have to see each other. And it's a worldwide thing. You don't have to restrict yourself only into Thailand. You can get ideas from youth around the world and sharing information. I think it's really useful in this new kind of world. Just like, way back 30 years ago, all I do is like writing postcards and letters. Funny.
It's funny to think about snail mail now. Yeah.
Yes, I know. But now you write an email and you go ding and then ding. Easy, so easy. So get information across very quickly. But also, well, for youth, I think if they learn to use it in the right way and don't spend too much time on that, use it on a particular purpose that could develop themselves as a person or as a, whatever, that could be good, definitely, but they will really need to control themselves. Don't let the computer or the screen control them, because it's really important that sometimes we're wasting a lot of time on it and didn't get to do the things that we want to do.
Yeah.
It's just like you would just go through, oh no, it's 1 hour already. That kind of thing. But for youth, they have to think about it and manage time. But what I've seen in Thailand is that young learner, they get a screen and they get the technology because their parents didn't have time, and that kind of thing. It's really creating a lot of problem and issues in their learning and behavior. So that's not so pleased for me.
Yeah, so it can be both, right? It's a matter of how you use it and how you regulate it, either for yourself if you're old enough to do it, or how your parents regulate it for you if you're a bit young. Okay, so another question that kind of came up for me is, as we're talking about tools, and this can be anything from technology to even just like programs that you guys have run, what would you say, and maybe I direct this to you, Dini, first, about what has been your most effective tool in youth engagement? Because you brought up a bunch of different things earlier, but there was like the camp, which sounded really cool, and I would have loved to go to conservation camp. That sounds like so much fun. But which of those tools, if you can call them tools or programs, have you seen the most engagement out of?
Yeah, I think the one that with conservation camp, that is really powerful, because not only that, only one conservation camp. So we open a registration for that conservation camp, and we only choose 20 participants, and we pay for their transport and accommodations. So, and we also choose them based on their locations. So people in Sulawesi will not compete with people in Java, to make it more inclusive. And getting some financial help will helpful for them. And after the conservation camp, that 20 people will get additional trainings for a year, that they will get peer-to-peer learnings. So for example, I was the committee, right? And then I can give them give the participants some classes after the camp. So after a year having those experience and talking to people that already start their career in these topics, will help them to have more skills and also have a better awareness and ability to like see that this career can be something that they can work on, right? And then because of that, and they meet couple of times, then that network really helpful. So for example, now we also have WhatsApp groups. So now we started about 8 years ago. So right now I cannot ask that group like if I need something about policy and I don't understand. I already know like who is the guy who works in that topics, and that network really helpful. So I think the long-term trainings is the most powerful.
Amazing. That's incredible. And I mean, that kind of program is really shaping, future leaders. And like you said, 8 years ago, they are now, in a professional setting. So they are already the leaders of the industry. So that's, I think, really, really key for our audience as well, to take home of thinking about what kind of long-term programs can really shape youth, and to give them those experiential learnings that they can take with them into their professional lives, into their careers, and so on and so forth. So thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Tuk, would you have anything to add from there?
You mean the program that we have?
Yeah, either a program or a tool that you've used that you find like, wow, this really, could be a game changer.
Oh, okay. I think creating, setting up a camp and put it on social media. And I think people and the youth in Thailand after the pandemic, they have this nature deficit disorder.
I like that, a nature deficit disorder.
Yeah,
NDD.
they were kept in a room and in the house, and they didn't go to school because of the pandemic. And after this pandemic, they're just into nature so much. Whenever we start camp or anything, they'll just apply for it, and it get full very quickly, fully booked. For example, we send out the message, we recruiting some participants, 20 participants to go into this and this area, and we do some nature walk and then talk about this forest, and they will just, it gets full within a couple of hours.
That's amazing.
That's really powerful. And after you post it on social media, and they have friends and a friends and a friend of their friends, they just come in and, please, we'll have it again, we want to go, we'd like to join. It's really powerful.
Amazing. And I guess that really speaks to our question from Dong Hyun Kwak, who's joining us all the way from Seoul. So welcome. Thank you for joining us from Korea. So their question is, I wonder, when a country is less familiar with peatland like South Korea, if they're interested in engaging with some sort of youth participation program, which few factors the country has to consider the most? I mean, one way they could participate is if they want to fly to Thailand to join Tuk's wetland camp program. But do you guys have any thoughts on this? Like, I suppose the question here is, what factors do they have to consider if they want to engage in a youth program to do with peatlands? Dini, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think working with groups that already working on those topics will be really helpful. So they will know what's the main problems that can be solved through what kind of projects. Um, yeah, I think that is the major thing that we can think about if we want to start a new project here.
Yeah, awesome. And took anything from you in terms of how to engage with, people who don't have familiarity with peat at all in their country?
Well, I think the same as Dini because maybe PFP could be the hub, and then and then the Korean can join, and this kind of activity is really nice. It's really powerful and useful for everybody and other people from other countries as well, if they're interested in. And you guys are like an expert on the peat. Yeah.
Yes, awesome. So
We young learner.
yes, I mean, exactly like both Dini and Tuk said, right? Joining events like this is one really good way. And then for us, especially for people for Peat anyway, we have a very active social media at the moment. So if you're just kind of getting your feet wet in terms of, understanding Peat, that would be a good place to start through our social media. And then we also have, all the symposiums that we run, we record all of them and they are put up on our YouTube channel. So if, Donghyun, if you wanted to check those out, that'll be a really good introduction to, peatlands in Southeast Asia and how you can get involved and what you can do as kind of like a citizen of the world as well. So do check those out. And thank you so much for your question and for joining us all the way from Korea. That's great. I think that's a first for our symposium. Okay, I think we're reaching the end of our questions so far, more or less. But Dini and Tuk, is there anything else you would like to share with our audience before we close off? Any last words of wisdom about engaging youth on peatlands? Dini, starting with you.
Yeah, I think youth can be powerful if we invite and collaborate with them. And me as youth, and I speak on behalf of them, that yeah, we'll be really happy to participate to these topics. And yeah, I think that's all.
Thank you, Dini. And Tuk?
Okay, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to this the PFP and everybody who get this work. It's such a powerful and useful forum for us. And Dini, I can see myself in you when I was younger. I was like full of energy and I'd like to do a lot of things. And now at my age, with 2 children, we'll see something. We're focusing on the world for the children more, and how we want it to be like in the future. Are we going to set to protect the world for them, or are we just letting them go as the way they are? It's just the feeling of being a mother. I have to do it for the better world of my children. And yeah, so gather knowledge is very important. We know not much about peat forest and also the people of Thailand. So we're learning and we are trying to make the best out of it to create the best thing for our future generation. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tuk, for sharing that. And again, like I said, everything's just coming full circle, right? You see yourself in Dini, and then, you have your kids, and your kids are going to grow up to be like Dini. So it'll go on, and that's wonderful. So thank you both so much for joining us today. It was such a joy to hear your presentations and your experiences, and for you to share everything that you did with us and our audience. So thank you so much.
Very welcome.
And thank you, of course, to our participants today for your energy and your time. All the questions you gave were really great, and it was a wonderful starting point for the discussions that we've been having today. So thank you for that. So now I will go up to our next thing. We're just kind of closing off for the day. And I just wanted to share our upcoming symposium. So like I said, today is our 4th symposium, which is our second last symposium. We have one more coming up and that is Symposium 5, where we're going to be talking about something quite interesting, which is culture and sustenance. And that is going to be on the 17th of August, so about a month from now. So please do join us for that. It'll be our last one for the year and for our project. So quite a special one to be part of. So please do join us for that. And you can sign up there. The link is in the chat box. And then we also have a workshop. As was mentioned during the talks, we have none other than Pantau Gambut, who will be presenting on the role of youth in peatland awareness and haze mitigation, not so much the role, but how to actually actively engage with youth through a digital space. Because if you can check, if you've ever heard of Pantau Gambut or you've checked out their social media, they have an incredible social media page. And we at People for Peat are always using them as inspiration. So we do encourage you to check out that workshop. It will be quite interactive. So it's going to be a smaller kind of workshop where there's going to be opportunities for you to, try out the activities yourself and then get your hands really dirty in terms of how to engage with youth better and more effectively. And so that will be on Friday, which is the 15th of July. So do join us for that. I'm very excited. All right. So of course, with all of our People for Peat events, we always encourage you to fill out the post-event survey to let us know what you think, how you like this event. If you have any feedback for us, we're always interested to know. And that is also your key to getting your e-certificate of participation. So if you would like an e-certificate, please do participate in our post-event survey. And the link is again in the chat box. So a lot of links going on in our chat box. So we'll keep it on for you so that you can, visit all of the links that you're interested in. All right, so that's it for today's symposium, I believe. Again, thank you all so much for joining, and thank you to our wonderful speakers who have really shared and inspired today. I feel quite inspired to listen to what they have to say, and also about future generations, and making sure that we stay curious and always try and learn and have fun out of things. So again, thank you so much for joining, and thank you to, of course, the People for Peat team behind the scenes who make this all happen and make it go off like clockwork. They're always so wonderful to work with. That's our team: Irene, Sindhu, Mariam, Hani, all my colleagues who make this event happen. And of course, to our funders, who are the European Union, who have funded this program for the last 3 years. So thank you so much to them. And as usual, please follow us on social media, because that's likely how you all heard about our event today. And I hope to see you guys this week, this Friday at the workshop, if not for our last symposium in August. So thank you so much. Mariam signing off. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.